Hey 8th graders, welcome back. Today, we're going to learn about the election of 1808 and the causes of the War of 1812, two really important connected pieces. Now, our learning target for this lesson, I can analyze the election of 1808 and the causes of the War of 1812. Now, we're first going to focus on the election piece because that's going to set our context. Now remember, if we look back, Thomas Jefferson was elected in 1800, and he's going to end up serving 2 terms as president. However, Jefferson chose not to run again, and it's very likely that he would have won a 3rd term. But he did this because of Washington's precedent that was set before. Presidents should only serve a maximum of 2 terms, and he honors Washington's precedent. So now we move forward to the election of 1808. And the main candidate for this election was James Madison. Now, Madison had a ton of support from the American people. Remember, this guy is a founding father. He's one of the biggest political names in this time period. And it made sense that he would eventually run for president. Now, the big issue or big thing that we see under James Madison is that he would start his career as a Federalist, but he would eventually switch to the Democratic Republicans with Thomas Jefferson. And he did this because he disagreed with another Federalist, Alexander Hamilton, and he disagreed with his economic plan to get the United States out of debt. Madison did not want to be in the same party with someone like Hamilton, and so him and Jefferson create the Democratic Republicans together, and this is when Madison is going to run. He sticks with that party that he helped to create. Now let's look at the election of 1808's electoral college map. If we look here, we can see a couple things. I'm not going to tell you because I want you to do some analysis of this map. And my question to you for ATQ number 1 is this. When you're taking a look at this map to the left, I want you to make an observation about 2 different things. The first, what are the results of the election of 1808 based on this map? And then what geographical changes do you notice that are new in this election that were not there in previous elections? Okay? Answer these 2 things in your guided notes, and then we'll talk about who wins. All right, let's take a look at the results of the election of 1808. James Madison is, in fact, going to win this election, and he wins by a landslide. He has the support of so many Americans. The issue is this. Madison is taking office as the majority of Europe is at war with one another. This is going to be a major, major problem, and it's going to be one of the defining characteristics of Madison's presidency. And with that in mind, let's take a look at the causes of the War of 1812. First, we're going to look at Britain, France, and America and our relationship. In 1803, this is under Thomas Jefferson's presidency, but we're looking back at some context, Britain and France went to war with one another. Really, it was France invading Britain, but it is a declaration of war. And since wars cost a lot of money, France is going to choose to sell the Louisiana Purchase to make a quick $15 million. This is why France sells all of this land. They need money for this war in Europe. And the $15 million, they probably could have asked for a lot more, but they needed that money then and there. And we get an incredible deal because of it. So as time goes on and as Madison gets into office, we start seeing some things that change. And the first is this. Britain is grumpy. So the British are super mad at the United States for not helping them or for remaining neutral. We chose not to do either of these. We don't really directly help France in the war, but we indirectly do it by giving them that $15 million. And the British are going to make the United States, and specifically James Madison, regret not helping them in their war against France. Madison comes into office, and Britain is going to show them who the dominant country is. And we're going to get 2 causes that Madison is going to deal with under his presidency. The first is British impressment. At this time, the British don't have enough soldiers to fight against France. They're also dealing with other conflicts around the world. So my question to you is this: what do you think that the British could do to get more soldiers? How could they grow their army? Answer that in your notes and we'll see if you're close. So if you guessed kidnapping American sailors and forcing them to fight against France, you would be 100% correct. And that is exactly what the British do. This is British impressment. It is kidnapping sailors and forcing them to fight for your army. And in this case, they are going to take American ships and the American sailors to fight against France. It's something that the British have been doing for hundreds of years. However, they really focus in on attacking America because we did not help them in the war against France. And to put this into perspective, the British Navy is the most powerful navy in the entire world at this point. And here's an example of some of their ships compared to an American one. I know it's hard to tell for the scale here, so I want to show you an example of their flag. If you look at the top of that ship on the right, there's a British flag. And this is an example of a saved one from hundreds of years ago. This is in a British museum. This is a massive flag that would be flown on one of these ships. And you can see to the top here, there are some people in comparison to this flag. It is huge. And these ships that they are using to capture American sailors on stand no chance. They're massive. Americans cannot overtake these ships or survive an attack. Now, our second cause is Native Americans and the British. What we see is that the British are going to give weapons and resources to Native Americans to fight against Americans pushing west. Remember, we keep talking about this idea briefly of westward expansion. Native Americans are there. They're in this land. And so the British have forced the Americans to fight almost a mini war with the Native Americans on their own land. As we push west from the 13 states here, we run into Native Americans who have been given resources and weapons by the British, and that makes it incredibly difficult to go west. Now let's take a look at a map of what's going on in this time. All of this light tan is going to represent the United States, and yes, there's some states here that we haven't looked at yet, and we'll spend time looking at how we acquire all of the states we know today, but this dark brown here is going to represent Britain. They control most of present-day Canada, and because of that, they're able to interact with Native Americans in this western portion of the U.S., and so we're going to see that a lot of conflict between natives and Americans are going to happen in the Midwest, specifically here in Michigan and Detroit, and also in Northwest Ohio here with Lake Erie. So the War of 1812 is going to be interesting because it's going to be close to home where we are today. So how does Madison respond to all of this? Well, Madison is furious. He had just become president, and the British are ramping up in kidnapping American soldiers, and they're also helping Native Americans attack us in the United States. So my last ATQ for you: how should Madison respond to Britain? Should he follow Washington's advice, where we should remain neutral in European conflicts, or is it too late for neutrality? Answer that in your notes, and we'll continue. So here's how Madison responds to the British. We are going to go to war again. Now, this is the first time that the United States is going to declare war against another country as the United States of America. And we're going to do it against our arch nemesis, Britain. And just like the American Revolution, where we thought that we would be outnumbered and overpowered, we're going into this war with the exact same thoughts, and all we want to do is beat Britain again. The War of 1812 is going to be a decisive war that is going to set a lot of context for the future of our country. And we're going to spend an entire lesson looking at that war itself. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to let me know.